All right, it is the first TBR of the year. I'm going to attempt to make it reasonable for a couple reasons. Some will relate to goals that I haven't really written down, and I haven't filmed that video next, but it's coming next week. I just haven't written down with words what my goals are, but I have intentions already, so I can definitely work that into this TBR. And some of my intentions are: don't over plan your reading. Make sure you still have time for other forms of entertainment because you like that balance. Like, thinking to myself, it's like, I really enjoy reading when I'm playing video games and watching TV and watching movies, because then I remember, oh yeah, I have this book to look forward to later. Like, if I'm just reading in my free time all the time, it takes out that funness for me. So making sure I'm not reading 160 books next year would be great for me. I think my sweet spot is probably between 120 and 130 books. So that said, that means that I probably will still read like 8 to 12 books a month, but I'm only going to plan like 8 of them each month. And this month there's even less because I am working on a secret project that you guys won't get to see for another month and a half, but that is also books that I need to read that I can't tell you guys about. So this is going to be a brief TBR. I'm going to talk about 6 things that are on my list. I'm going to talk about a video game I'm playing, and I'm going to talk about a TV show I hope to continue. And that'll be this TBR, short and sweet. And starting with my first book club obligation of the month, this is Jess Owen's nonfiction book community read, and we are reading and talking about Inferior, January 8th. I'll have the live link down below. And so this is, I believe, about where science have gotten women wrong. And I don't know the context. I have to assume it's a pretty broad scope, kind of one of those intro nonfiction pieces. It's pretty short, like it's less than 200 pages, I think. So I'm curious how much it's going to focus on medical things or psychological things or a combination. We'll see. I am curious. I do know a little bit with my background in biomedical sciences, but I don't know a lot about this history. I just assume, when in doubt, that most things in science have been understood for white men and not as much for everyone else. That's generally my assumption. So we'll see what this reveals. Hopefully it's a fun time and not too much of an anger-inducing time. We're trying to stay away from too much anger lately. Jess and I have been trying to have happy vibes. We'll see how much we succeeded. And if you wanted to vote on our next read, that poll is live in the Discord, so I'll have that link down below as well. So that's the first obligation. The other one is I have my local book club each month. We always meet on the second Monday, and we're going to read The Cabinet, which I am very excited about. I'd seen this around, and it intrigued me because it seems like one of those weird fiction sort of things. Like, there's this cabinet, and in it are these experiences that people are having that are really odd, and maybe it's a new species coming, like they're called symptomers or something. It's translated, I cannot remember if it's Korean or Chinese. I think it's Korean, but I could be wrong, and I'll correct myself on the screen. But I'm really interested in it, especially because I read Strange Beasts of China with Tammy at Tammy Tries to Read, and we have a discussion for that book, which I really enjoyed. And she kept comparing it to this book, and I'm like, I want a little more of it. And I like weird fiction sometimes. And also, it might be very each chapter is a contained thought, and I like that truncated episodic sort of nature in a narrative structure. I enjoy that. So hopefully it also brings that to the table. And we'll see if it leads to interesting conversation. That's what I always hope. We get together in a room and talk for an hour, and hopefully there's stuff to talk about. I never really know, but I'm excited about this one. Hopefully it sticks the landing for me, especially because I don't really have access to the audiobook, so I'm really hoping this translation works with my eyeballs. Really hoping. Another obligation is for my Patreon. We're alternating doing buddy reads on every other month, and we're also doing read along every other month. So every month we're reading something, but the read along is one series. But our first buddy read of the year has me so excited, and that's the Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. This is a reread, and I'm so excited that one of my first reads of the year will be a reread because I love rereading and I need to reread more. Just a fact. And yeah, I just love Terrain and Luca. Terrain is a child soldier who is going back to their home country, although they don't feel like they belong anywhere except with their fellow soldiers. The land that she is fighting for doesn't really think she's an equal citizen, and the land she's coming back to sees her as a traitor. So she's really in this awkward, messy place, and she's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman who is messy, and I love her. And Luca is extra messy, definitely one of those allies who doesn't really see that she's part of the problem. Definitely got a lot of that energy, and just the way Luca and Terrain play off each other. I just also love C.L. Clarke's writing. They have just like a prose style that sinks me into the pages, which is why I think I like this series more than I thought I would, because it's pretty, at least for sure in the first book, low magic military fantasy. Because we are focusing on a rebellion and the role of these child soldiers and the military and all of this like transfer of power potentially. Like that's the type of thing we're looking at. And that's not normally my thing, especially these days, but the writing just really had me instantly caring about these characters and these political dynamics. And so even without a lot of magic, I was in. And normally I'm like, I want magic in my fantasy. I don't know why that's such like a hot take sometimes, but I want magic in my fantasy. And it does seem like we might be getting magic. I think the series itself is called The Lost Magic or something like that. I actually don't know. It's on the back of my shelf here. Magic of the Lost. That's what the series is called. So I think with each book we might be getting more magic. Regardless, the second book comes out in March. We're rereading in January, or at least some people are reading for the first time, but I'm rereading and I cannot wait. I'm just so excited. So that's book number 3. Book number 4, I really have nothing to say about other than Brandon Sanderson's Secret Project number 1 is dropping. And I am reading this both for myself as a Sanderson fan, but also there's the Cosmere read-along run by Roger, which I'll have our announcement live down below. And I think we're discussing that one in February. I don't know. I know we're going to discuss it eventually, and I want to read it. And I currently still, as of right now, know nothing about it, which has been glorious. I don't know. I know it's so dumb, but he gave me the option to know nothing, and I'm going in knowing nothing. Why not? So I know I'll get access to the ebook and audiobook on January 1st, and I know I won't get the physical for a while, but I don't need that to start reading. So we'll see what that has in store. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a good time, though. I generally like what Sanderson produces. And the next 2 are not obligations, but one was voted on by my patrons. So every month they get to vote for a book that I read for my TBR. And this month I made it based off the squares I need to finish for my Reddit bingo challenge, because we have 3 more months to finish our Reddit bingo boards. And so this is the time where I'm like, what do I need to get read to finish these bingos? And one was the multi-author square, which I guess maybe technically I've accomplished with the anthologies, but I've also really wanted to read The Vila. And it's narrated by Robin Miles. And that's what they basically, not unanimously, but it had a really high percentage, so that's what I'm reading. I'm reading The Vila, and I'm excited. I'm so excited because it has a lot of my favorite authors. Yoon Ha Lee, Rivers Solomon, S.L. Wong, Becky Chambers. Like, it's a good cast of authors coming together. And, like, all of them are trans, now that I'm saying it out loud, I think. Maybe not Becky Chambers. I think Becky Chambers is queer, but not trans. But regardless, the representation in this author slate is cool, and I love a lot of their works. Like, Yoon Ha Lee, Rivers Solomon, up there in my favorite authors. So pair that with Robin Miles, one of my favorite narrators, could be a fantastic time. And also, I don't know what this type of story is going to feel like, where each episode is a different author's take, but on the same story. And I think the story is generally kind of your cliche sci-fi plot of, we have this, mercenary for hire who's supposed to find this refugee ship and then stumbles into a secret that is way bigger than their pay grade and then has to help save the world. Like, I think it's something like that. But I don't care. In the hands of these authors, I just want to see what they can do. And then my last one I really want to get to, and I've kind of tentatively set up a buddy read, so I think it'll for sure happen, is Interference by Sue Burke. This is the sequel to Symbiosis, which I really enjoyed in November, and I've been wanting to get to the sequel, and I was noticing that this was kind of a heavier fantasy reading month if I wasn't, I don't know, I think I have it more balanced between fantasy and sci-fi if I chose this instead of other series continuations that were on my series TBR, and so Interference was calling to me. And so that's the one that I'm, like, for sure, like, prioritizing. I'll probably continue other series because that's who I am, but this is the one where I'm like, yes. So, and a couple of us who had read Symbiosis for the patron buddy read in November are going to continue, and it's going to be fun. Hopefully. I'll let myself DNF if it's not fun. That's another thing. I just need to let myself DNF. I'm really bad at it. I always think it'll get better, and then sometimes books do get better. There are times when it is worth it. So it's so hard to tell. It's so hard. But other than these books and books that I can't talk about, and then obviously mood reading, whatever I feel like when I want to, I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn again. For those who might be new, I got this game back in, like, March, started playing it, and then stopped in May, and then recently I just was like, I'm going to start over. And I'm better at video games now, and I just need to play it. I just need to let myself die. And I'm doing really good. I'm further than I was last time. I think I'm, like, pretty far through the main quest line, and I just want to like make sure I give myself time to play it. Like, it's an open world game. I can't just like sit down and play it for only like 30 minutes at a time. Like, when I sit down to play it, I want to be able to have an hour or two, which is normally how I read. And so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of vying for my time in terms of like my free time, especially with the new job starting up in January. So that's also a reason I wanted to make this a more attainable list, because I want to consume this story. This is a very fun sci-fi story. I mean, I've been predicting a lot of what's happening, but it doesn't make it less fun. It's an enjoyable experience. And the last thing I'll talk about is I am watching the show High Seas with my friends because we are practicing our Spanish. And it's enjoyable. It's like really weird, like mystery drama. I don't know. It's well produced, I guess I would say, and there's a lot of drama, and it's fun because we have our own Spanish chat where we only let ourselves speak in Spanish in reactions to what we're watching, because we just like coordinate playing it at the same time. And so it's been challenging and rewarding all at the same time. I don't know if I'm into the mystery, but that's why I'm glad I'm like watching it with friends. So there's that. So that's just TBR. Short, sweet, attainable, and I'm sure I'll read more than this. You'll just have to check out my Friday reads to see what ends up on my plate or not, as I attempt to give myself flexibility while still keeping the structure that brings my planning heart joy. That is the balance that we are trying to attain here. And if you want to leave an emoji of all these books I talked about, I think there's like a gecko or something on the cabinet's cover. There's like a lizard something, so like a lizard emoji. Yeah, that's what I want. And let me know what your plans are for reading this month. You know, are you trying to attain any of your goals right off the bat? And like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.